I wasn't supposed to need saving that Tuesday in late spring. Barcelona had been my escape hatch for 6 months. A city of sun-drenched plazas and whispered secrets in a language I was still fumbling with. All to outrun the wreckage of my last relationship back home. Sarah had left me for a barista with tattoos and better playlists, and I'd bolted across the Atlantic on a whim, subletting this third-floor walk-up with its creaky terracotta tiles and balcony overlooking a riot of bougainvillea. The freelance work was sporadic, the sangria plentiful, but the isolation? That was the real thief, stealing my sleep and my spark until I was just a ghost haunting my own life. The internet outage had been the final straw. 3 days without it, and my inbox was a graveyard of missed deadlines. I'd called the provider in a panic, my Spanish reduced to frantic gestures over the phone, and they'd promised someone by noon. But noon came and went, swallowed by the gathering clouds that turned the Mediterranean sky bruise purple. By 2 I was pacing, phone in hand, ready to hurl it out the window when that buzz shattered the silence. Zoe stepped inside like she owned the place, kicking off her muddy boots with a grin that could disarm a bomb. "Sorry for the dramatic entrance. Name's Zoe, your knight in shining. Well, dripping waterproofs." She was maybe 25, all lean muscle and easy confidence, the kind of woman who looked like she'd grown up surfing California's coast before trading waves for cables. Her company polo clung to her frame from the rain, but she didn't seem to notice, slinging her toolkit onto the kitchen counter with a thud that echoed my pulse. "Riley," I managed, closing the door against the wind-whipped rain. "Thanks for coming out in this mess. I thought I'd lose my mind without Wi-Fi." She chuckled, low and warm, pulling out a tablet to scan my router. "Happens more than you'd think. Expats like you, cut off from the motherland's Netflix and all. Where you from, anyway?" "That accent's pure Pacific Northwest." "Seat," I said, leaning against the doorframe, suddenly hyper-aware of the clutter. Half-empty coffee mugs, stacks of unread books on gaudiest architecture, the faint scent of yesterday's takeout paella. "You. LA born and raised. But I've been chasing gigs around Europe for a couple years now. Barcelona's got that magic, doesn't it? The light, the food, the heartbreak." Her eyes flicked up, catching mine for a beat too long, and I felt a spark, literal or otherwise, as she knelt by the modem, fingers deft on the wires. We fell into easy chatter while she worked, the storm outside a furious backdrop to her stories of botched installs in Rome and a near miss with a flock of pigeons in Paris. She was funny sharp, the way she'd mimic a French landlord's accent making me laugh for the first time in weeks. By the time the router hummed back to life, green lights blinking like hesitant fireflies, the rain had eased to a patter, and I was offering her a towel and a cup of that overbrewed coffee I'd salvaged from the tin. "You don't have to," she said, but she took the towel anyway, rubbing it over her hair until it stuck up in damp spikes. "Most folks just sign the form and shove me out the door." "Not most folks," I replied, handing her the mug. Our fingers brushed, electric accidental, and I pulled back too quick, heat creeping up my neck. "Besides, it's the least I can do for saving my sanity." She sipped, leaning against the counter, those blue eyes scanning the room like she was reading the story of me etched in the walls. "Sanity's overrated. It's the connections that matter, the real ones, not just Ethernet." Her voice softened, and for a moment, the air thickened, charged like the storm hadn't fully passed. That was how it started. A glitch fixed, a coffee shared, and a number slipped into my phone under the guise of follow-up troubleshooting. I texted her that night, a thank you emoji with a sangria glass, and she fired back with a sunset pic from the beach, caption "Proof the world's still spinning." By Friday, we were grabbing tapas at a hole in the wall in El Born, her laughing at my attempts to roll the R in paella, me stealing glances at the way her freckles danced when she smiled. Barcelona unfolded for me then. Less a labyrinth and more a love letter. Zoe knew the hidden spots, the tucked-away vermouth bars where locals nursed glasses of the amber elixir, the mosaic-tiled benches in Park Güell where we'd sit until the stars pricked the velvet sky. She was a whirlwind of energy, dragging me to midnight flamenco shows in dimly lit cellars, her hand brushing mine in the crowd as the dancers' heels stamped out rhythms that mirrored my quickening heart. "Feel that," she'd whisper, breath warm against my ear. "That's alive. That's us." I fell hard, the kind of fall that sneaks up on you like Mediterranean fog rolling in off the sea. Riley, the jaded editor, who'd sworn off love after Sarah's ghosting texts and empty promises, Found herself doodling Zoe's name in the margins of manuscripts, replaying the curve of her laugh in quiet moments. We were both adrift, me from a corporate job that had chewed me up, her from a family that never quite got the daughter who fixed things instead of breaking them vibe. But together in that sun-soaked city of exiles, we patched each other up, wire by wire. One evening after a hike up Tibidabo where the city sprawled below like a glittering promise, we collapsed on my balcony, feet tangled under a shared blanket, a bottle of Priorat wine half empty between us. The air hummed with cicadas, and the distant hum of traffic felt like the world's indifferent lullaby. "Tell me something real," Zoe said, tracing lazy circles on my knee with her thumb. Her touch was fire and anchor, pulling confessions from me I'd buried deep. I used to think love was a deadline, hit it or miss it, no extensions. I stared at the horizon, where the sea met the fading light. Sarah made me believe I was the one always rushing, always late. But you make time stretch. She turned, propping on an elbow, her face close enough that I could count the lashes framing those ocean blue eyes. "Riley, you're not late. You're right here." And then she kissed me, soft at first, tentative like testing a live circuit. But when I leaned in, it ignited, her lips tasting of salt and vintage grapes, her hand cupping my jaw as if I were the fragile thing needing repair. We broke apart breathless, foreheads pressed, the city lights winking approval below. "I've wanted that since the rain," she murmured, and I laughed, a sound raw with relief. "Me too." "God, Zoe, what are we doing?" "Loving each other," she said simply, as if it were the easiest fix in the world. And in that moment, with her arms around me and Barcelona breathing easy at our feet, it felt true. But truths have a way of fraying at the edges, especially when you're building on borrowed time. Summer deepened, turning the streets into ovens of siesta and sweat, and our rhythm settled into something sacred. Mornings were hers, early shifts untangling the digital knots of strangers, while I hammered out edits from the cool shade of cafes, stealing hours to wander the Gothic quarter's shadowed alleys. Evenings belonged to us. Picnics on the sand at Barceloneta, where she'd bury my feet in warm dunes and we'd talk about futures that included us. A little tech shop for her, a novel for me, maybe a road trip back to the States someday. "You're my glitch," I teased, lacing our fingers as we strolled the Ramblas, dodging flower sellers and street performers. "The one I never want fixed." "And you're my signal boost," she'd shoot back, pulling me into a doorway for a stolen kiss, her laughter muffling against my collarbone. It was idyllic, the kind of romance that poets pen and skeptics dismiss. But beneath the surface, doubts flickered like bad reception. Zoe's phone would buzz at odd hours, her face tightening as she silenced it with a quick swipe. "Work stuff," she'd say, but her eyes would dart away, and I'd swallow the questions, afraid to jinx the connection. One night, after a particularly grueling day, me fielding a client's meltdown over a botched manuscript, her recounting an install gone sideways in a posh example penthouse, we opted for quiet. Takeout from La Paradetta, fresh seafood steaming on paper plates, and a playlist of Joni Mitchell crooning about circles and goodbyes. We ate cross-legged on the living room floor, backs against the sofa, her head on my shoulder. "You ever think about staying?" I asked, the wine loosening my tongue. "I mean really staying. Making this permanent." She stilled, fork hovering. "Barcelona? Or us?" "Both. All of it." My voice cracked, vulnerability spilling out like overproof dough. "I came here to start over, but with you it feels like I've found the ending I didn't know I was chasing." Zoe set her plate aside, turning to face me, her expression a mosaic of tenderness and shadow. "Riley, you're everything. This us. It's the best surprise I've had in years." She cupped my cheek, thumb brushing my lip. "But permanent's a big word. Scary, even for a girl who wrangles routers for a living." I nodded, forcing a smile, but the seed of unease took root. That night, as she slept beside me, her breath steady and sure, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin, wondering if our signal was as strong as it seemed. The first crack appeared a week later, innocuous as a loose screw. We'd planned a weekend escape to the Costa Brava. Rugged coves and hidden beaches, just the two of us. But Friday morning, Zoe's phone lit up with a call she took in the bathroom, voice hushed and urgent. When she emerged, towel drying her hair, her smile was strained. "Change of plans. Emergency job, some VIP's yacht offline. And they need it yesterday. Rain check. Disappointment stung, but I played it cool. Sure. Go be the hero. I'll hold down the fort. She kissed me fierce, promising makeup beach days, but as she dashed out, I noticed the missed call log. Mom flashing twice. Then a number with a +1 prefix stateside. LA area code. I shook it off, diving into work, but the quiet amplified the hum of uncertainty. That afternoon, solitude gnawing, I wandered to the market, picking up figs and manchego for a solo feast. On the way back, weaving through the labyrinth of La Ribera, I spotted her, Zoe, ducking into a cafe I'd never seen her frequent, her posture tense. Curiosity overrode manners. I lingered across the street, peering through the window like a bad rom-com extra. She wasn't alone. A woman, tall, polished, with sleek dark hair and a laugh like champagne bubbles, sat opposite, their hands touching across the table in a way that twisted my gut. Not flirtatious exactly, but intimate. Familial? The resemblance hit me. Same jawline, same easy grace. Sister? No, the way Zoe leaned in, whispering, felt heavier. I fled before she saw me, heart hammering, chalking it up to paranoia. But that night, when she returned with excuses and takeout apologies, the questions burned. Who was the emergency client? I asked casually, pouring vermouth. She hesitated, a microsecond, but enough. Oh, some tech bro on a deadline. Nothing exciting. The lie sat between us like an unplugged cord. I let it slide, pulling her close instead, losing myself in the familiar press of her body. But trust, once frayed, unravels slow. Summer's zenith brought heat waves that turned Barcelona into a fever dream. The air thick with jasmine and exhaust, mirroring the tension coiling in my chest. Zoe and I danced around the fracture. More beach days, stolen afternoons in the shade of palm trees, her kisses a balm that soothed but didn't heal. I convinced myself it was nothing. Overwork, homesickness bleeding into suspicion. After all, hadn't I fled Sarah for less? Paranoia was my old enemy, and I refused to let it sabotage this. We threw ourselves into the city's pulse. Festival season hit with a vengeance. Gracia's street parties transforming the neighborhood into a kaleidoscope of lights and laughter, paper lanterns swaying like drunken fireflies. Zoe surprised me with tickets to an indie folk concert in the old bullring-turned venue. Her arm slung around my waist as we wove through the crowd. See? Even when life's glitchy, music patches it. She yelled over the acoustic strums, pulling me into a slow sway amid the throng. Her body fit mine like a custom cable, and for those hours doubts dissolved in the sweat and song. Afterward, buzzed on Estrella and Euphoria, we stumbled home through alleys alive with buskers and late-night whispers. On my doorstep, she pinned me against the cool stone wall, her mouth hungry, hands roaming with a desperation that tasted like farewell. I love you, Riley, she breathed, the words slipping out unbidden, raw as exposed wire. My heart seized. Say it again. I love you. She pulled back, eyes searching mine in the sodium glow of the street lamp. Scary as hell, but true. We tumbled inside, the night blurring into tangled sheets and confessions murmured against skin. Promises of tomorrows, of facing fears together. For the first time since the cafe glimpse, I slept sound, her heartbeat a steady router against my ribs. But Barcelona, that seductive siren, has a way of luring secrets to the surface. 2 weeks later, during a rare day off, I decided to surprise her at work. Her company's van was parked outside a sleek modernist apartment block in Sarria, the kind of place where expat millionaires summered. I waited in the lobby cafe, nursing a courte-à-deux, heart light with the thrill of spontaneity. She emerged after an hour, laughing with a colleague, a burly guy named Marco who'd become our occasional third wheel for trivia nights. But it was the woman trailing them that stopped my breath. The same dark-haired beauty from the cafe, now in yoga pants and a tank top, effusing thanks with a familiarity that curdled my coffee. Zoe, you're a lifesaver. Dinner next week to celebrate. The woman's voice carried, honeyed and insistent. Zoe's response was muffled, but her nod, quick, evasive, landed like a gut punch. I slipped out before they spotted me. The city streets closing in, claustrophobic and cruel. That evening I confronted the mirror first, rehearsing accusations that dissolved into pleas. When she arrived with grocery bags, fresh prawns for gambas al ajillo, her favorite peace offering, I couldn't hold back. Who's Elena? The name had burned into my memory from an overheard snippet. Zoe's face drained of color, bags thudding to the floor. What? The woman. Dark hair, LA vibe. You two seemed close. My voice trembled, accusation laced with ache. She sank onto the stool, rubbing her temples. Elena. She's my ex. We dated back in college before I left for Europe. She's in town for work, visiting, that's all. The half-truth hung heavy. Visiting? And dinner invites? Come on, Zoe. It's nothing. Frustration edged her tone, but guilt shadowed her eyes. She's engaged now, Riley. To a guy. We're just catching up, old friends, closure stuff. You know how it is with first loves. First loves. The phrase echoed Sarah's parting shot. You were my trial run. I wanted to believe her, to solder the break, but the solder wouldn't take. Just tell me there's no static between you two. No unresolved signals. Zoe's hand reached for mine, warm and pleading. I swear. It's you. Only you. We made love then, urgent and affirming, her whispers of devotion chasing shadows. But in the afterglow as she dozed, I scrolled her phone. A betrayal of my own, born of desperation. Text from Elena. Miss our talks. Drink soon. For old times. Harmless on the surface, but the timestamps, late nights post our good nights, festered. I deleted nothing, just closed the app, vowing to trust. But trust is a fragile modem, and the next storm was brewing. Elena became the ghost in our machine. She lingered in mentions, a quick coffee that stretched to lunch, a group hike that left Zoe exhausted and evasive. I threw myself into work, editing manuscripts on queer icons and lost loves, the irony bitter as unripe olives. Friends I'd made, expats like me, a queer book club that met in a bohemian flat off Passeig de Gracia, noticed the strain. You're glowing less, my friend Mia said over churros one morning, her British lilt gentle. What's got you flickering? Love, I sighed, crumbling the pastry. The kind that connects everything. Until it doesn't. She squeezed my hand. Talk to her. Before the signal drops. I tried. God, I tried. Over a candlelit dinner at Tickets, Ferran Adrià's Temple of Molecular Magic, I laid it bare. Zoe, Elena, she's pulling you back. I see it in the way you check your phone, the way you light up at her name. The amuse-bouche arrived. Tiny spheres bursting with yuzu, but the mood soured. Zoe set down her fork, jaw tight. It's not like that. She's family, Riley. My family doesn't get me, the job, the wandering, the me. Elena does. Did. But you're my now. Then why does it feel like I'm competing with yesterday? Tears pricked, hot and unwelcome. Because you're scared. She shot back, voice cracking. We both are. This city's temporary for me. A gig, not a grave. What if we burn out before the lease ends? The words landed like thunder. Temporary. I'd forgotten that in the haze of us. Her contract was 6 months. Mine open-ended. But love isn't a visa stamp. We left the restaurant in silence, the night air cool against flushed skin. Back home she held me as I cried, apologies tumbling from her lips. I'm in this. Fight for it with me. I nodded, clinging to the lifeline. But betrayal isn't always grand gestures. Sometimes it's the slow drip of omissions, eroding the foundation. The climax crashed in early September, as autumn's first chill nipped the air. I'd planned a surprise. A drive to Montserrat, the jagged monastery mountains that pierced the sky like divine teeth. A reset, a vow to weather the static. I packed a basket, bread, jamon, a bottle of kava, and texted her to meet at the apartment. She was late. 20 minutes, then 40. My calls went to voicemail, her replies cryptic. Stuck at a site. Be there soon. Worry morphed to dread as the sun climbed, baking the car. When she finally pulled up in the company van, Elena was in the passenger seat. The world tilted. They spilled out, laughing, easy, intimate. Elena gesturing animatedly, Zoe nodding with that fond exasperation reserved for old flames. My door slammed before I could think, basket forgotten. Riley. Zoe's face crumpled as she jogged over, Elena hanging back, confusion etching her features. It's not, wait. What's she doing here? My voice was ice, splintering. Car trouble. She needed a lift and I. You what? Decided to bring your old friend on our day. Sarcasm dripped venomous. Elena's voice cut in measured. Riley, right? Zoe's told me about you. This is awkward. I swear it's innocent. Innocent, I echoed, laugh brittle. Like the dinners? The late texts? I'm done being the side signal. Zoe reached for me, desperate. Stop, please. Elena's leaving tomorrow, back to LA to her life. This is goodbye, not? Goodbye. I whirled on her. Or the kind of goodbye that loops back around. You lied, Zoe. About the lunches, the hikes. About us being enough. Tears streaked her cheeks now, mirroring mine. I was scared you'd bolt if I admitted how messy it is. Elena. She represents the life I ran from. The expectations. But you're the one I choose. Elena stepped forward, voice soft. She's telling the truth. We're ancient history. I came to say sorry for everything. For hurting her back then. Her eyes met mine, earnest. Don't let my baggage sink your ship. The plaza around us, Montserrat's pilgrims and vendors, faded to static. Zoe's hand trembled in mine, and in that suspended breath I saw the fracture. Not just her secrets but my own walls built from Sarah's ruins. I need space, I whispered, pulling away. To reboot. She nodded, shattered. Take it. But come back. Please. I drove alone that day, the mountains mocking my isolation, Kava untouched. Betrayal's sting was sharp, but beneath it pulsed something deeper. The terror of true connection. The risk of wires crossing forever. The weeks that followed were a digital detox of the soul. Me holed up in the apartment, cursor blinking accusingly on half-finished edits. The balcony my confessional where I'd stare at the sea and replay every fumble. Barcelona, once a canvas for our romance, turned accusatory. Every cafe corner echoed with her laugh. Every sunset bled with what-ifs. Friends rallied. Mia with wine-fueled rants. A new acquaintance named Sophia from the book club dragging me to pottery classes in Poblenou. But the void gaped. A dropped connection that no reboot could mend. Zoe respected the space, her texts sparse and aching. Thinking of you under the stars. Fixed a router today, wished it was us. I read them in the dead of night, thumb hovering over reply. Heart a war zone of longing and logic. Elena's flight had come and gone. A mutual friend confirmed it, her engagement ring glinting in farewell photos. The betrayal shrank in scale, exposed as tangled cords rather than severed lines, but the damage lingered, trust's firewall cracked wide. One gray October afternoon, as rain lashed the windows like recriminations, my buzzer sounded. Not her, not after silence's weight, but Sophia, insisting on a rainy day rescue with books and baklava. I buzzed her up, grateful for the distraction, only to open the door to Zoe, soaked and somber, a small box clutched in her hands. Riley. Her voice was gravel, eyes red-rimmed. Sophia's my co-conspirator. Said you needed this. She thrust the box forward. Inside, a vintage router, brass and bakelite. An antique she'd scavenged from a flea market in El Raval. Engraved with our signal, unbreakable. Taped to it, a note in her looping script. You fixed me first. Let me return the favor. Laughter bubbled through my tears, absurd and cathartic. You bribed my friend? Desperate times. She stepped closer, rain pooling at our feet. I've been a coward. Not just with Elena, with everything. Running from family, from roots because staying hurt more than leaving. But losing you? That's the real outage. I took the box, fingers brushing hers, the contact a live wire. It wasn't just you. I built walls before you even knocked. Sarah left scars, made me see glitches everywhere. We sank onto the sofa, the storm outside a duet to our unraveling. She spoke first, words pouring like the rain. Elena had been her anchor in chaos. A coming-out lifeline in conservative Ella, but toxic too, possessive and pressuring. Their catch-ups were Zoe's attempt at excision, closing loops before they snared us. I should have trusted you with the mess. Instead, I buffered it alone. And I should have believed in us, I admitted, leaning into her shoulder, the scent of wet wool in her shampoo a homecoming. Feared the drop more than the dive. Her arm encircled me, tentative then sure. So we patch it? Together. I nodded, turning to meet her gaze. Those blue depths stormy but steady. Yeah, but no more ghosts. Full access, all ports open. The kiss that followed was a reset button. Slow, deliberate, tasting of salt and second chances. Not the fire of new love, but the glow of enduring signal, flickering resilient. Winter crept in softly, gilding our rebuild. Zoe's contract extended, her company loving the local legend she'd become, and we marked it with a vow: weekly tech talks. Raw check-ins over coffee, untangling doubts before they nodded. Barcelona embraced our mending. The Christmas markets in Santa Lucia with their twinkling lights and Turin sweets. New Year's fireworks over the harbor where we toasted to bandwidth and beyond. But healing isn't linear. Glitches persisted. A call from her mother, clipped conditional acceptance of that phase, sent Zoe spiraling, doubting her worth. I held her through it, whispering affirmations in the dark. You're not a phase. You're the whole damn network. My own hurdles loomed. A job offer back in Seattle, tempting stability clashing with our fragile ecosystem. What if I go and we fade? I confessed one night, curled on the balcony as snow-dusted flurries danced. A rarity in this coastal climb. Then we fight the lag, she said, fierce. Video calls, visits, whatever. Or, stay. Build here. With me. The choice crystallized in a dream. Sarah's shadow dissolving into Zoe's light. Barcelona's spires pointing not to escape, but home. I turned down the offer, emailing my notice with a grin, and Zoe celebrated by installing a proper home office. Shelves for my books, her tools neatly arrayed beside. Spring bloomed triumphant, our 1-year mark a quiet ceremony on that Tibidabo overlook where doubt had peaked. We hiked at dawn, the city awakening below, and at the summit, amid wild thyme and whispering winds, she knelt, not with rings but a promise etched on vellum. To Riley, my forever upgrade. In this life or the next signal. Tears blurred the words, joy's overflow. Yes, I breathed, pulling her up into an embrace that spanned horizons. To all of it. We descended hand in hand, the path sure underfoot, Barcelona sprawling like an open port. Inviting, infinite. Love, we'd learned, isn't flawless transmission. It's the grace in the static, the warmth in the wait. Zoe had come to fix my internet, but together we'd rewired our hearts, stronger, synced, eternal. In the years that followed, we chased dreams intertwined. Her tech co-op mentoring queer youth in coding, my novel. A tapestry of expat longing and found family. Finding a small press in Madrid. We traveled, Costa Brava coves, Andalusian whites, even a stateside detour to LA, where Zoe faced her mother with my hand in hers, forging fragile bridges. Barcelona remained our anchor. That Gracia walk-up evolving into a haven of laughter and late edits. Bougainvillea climbing higher each season. And on stormy nights when thunder grumbled like old grudges, we'd curl together. Her fingers tracing my scars, mine hers. You're my best connection, I'd murmur and she'd smile, that disarming defiant grin. And you're mine. Fully charged. In a world of dropped calls and fleeting feeds, we'd hack something profound. A love unbuffered, deeply human, profoundly ours. Proof that sometimes the heart's true install comes not in fixing the break, but in choosing to reconnect again and always.